Hello everyone, so I'm here today giving a pretty numbers focused video. I know some people don't really like this type of video, but if you're someone who does like it like me, please feel free to keep watching. I am going to be doing my beauty inventory update. This will be the third beauty inventory I've taken this year, but only the second one I've filmed. Not actually sure about that, I'll double check. But this will be an update since my last September update, and it will be the final one for the end of 2015. Basically what I do is I go through all of my makeup, perfume, nail polish, hair care, and skincare, tell you the numbers I had at my last update and the numbers I have now. This is purely numbers based. I won't be going into any products, what kind of products I have or anything like that. This isn't a collection, it's just an inventory. I'll also let you know that I do count samples, whether they're foil, sachets, deluxe samples, travel sizes. I count everything as one full product. So some of these numbers might seem really high, or some of them might seem to have changed a lot, and that is a lot due to samples. But that's how I like to count my collection, because I do count them as products. But if that's not how you do it, I'm sorry, that's the way I do it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down below, but let's get started. Also, part of my inventories are kind of goals or ideals of how much of a certain product I would like to own in my perfect collection. There's total flexibility with this. I don't think there is an exact number that I'm aiming towards. It's just kind of where I would like to work towards in the next year or two, just to see how my collection grows and shrinks. So the last inventory that I did was on September 18th of this year, and I started with makeup. So I'll start with makeup again. For face products overall, I did increase my collection, but I'll go into that a little bit more specifically. Foundations. In September I had 7. That was 6 BB or tinted moisturizers and 1 liquid foundation. I now have 7, which it breaks down to 5 tinted moisturizers and 2 liquid foundations. For foundations, my ideal number is 2. In September I had 2 primers. I currently have 1 and I'm happy to maintain 1. I had 3 powders. I still have 3 powders. In fact, it's the same 3 powders, and I would like to have 2. For concealer, I had 2 and I now have 3. My ideal number is 2. For blush, in September I jumped significantly up to 20, which breaks down to 7 powder and 13 cream. I now have 22 blushes, which breaks down to 9 powder and 13 cream. In the past year I've actually bought 3 cheek palettes, so that's where that number is kind of grown. My ideal number for blush though would be 15. For highlighters, I originally in September had 5, which broke down to 4 powder, 1 liquid. I now have 7, which is 5 powder, 1 cream, and 1 liquid. My ideal would be to have 5. For bronzer, in September I had 4, and I still have the same 4. Now onto eyes. Overall, I have gone up in my eye category from 42 products to 49, but more specifically in September I had 1 eye primer. I still have 1 and I'm happy to stay with 1. I had 5 cream eyeshadows. I now have 3 and I'm happy to go back up to 5. I had 4 pigments. I now have 9 and ideally I'd like to have 4, but I think that will change. I'm not quite sure about that number anymore. For single shadows, I used to have 8. I now have 6, and ideally I'd like to have around 8 as well, but with the pigments, those two kind of work in tandem, so I'm pretty flexible with both of those. For eyeshadow palettes, now this is anything bigger than a single. I have a trio, 2 quads, and the rest have more than 4 shadows. In September, I had 13, and now I have 11. Ideally, I would like to have 9. For eyeliner, in September, I had 14, which broke down to 3 gel, 10 pencil, and 1 liquid. Now I have 8 liners, which breaks down to 2 gel, 6 pencil, and no liquid. I've been decluttering a lot of my eye products and also using up a lot of eyeliner, so that's how those numbers have changed. In September for mascara, I had 2. I now have 2, which in fact today moved up to 3 because I bought a new mascara. But yeah, so ideally I would like to have just one, and I currently have 3. For brow powder, I used to have 1, I still have the same 1, and 1 is fine. For brow pencils, I didn't have 1 in September, don't have 1 now. I'd happily go up to 1. For brow gel, in September I had 1, and I still have 1. I'm happy to maintain 1. Now onto lip products. So I have gone up in my lip product category, which I don't think is very surprising. I've actually received or bought for myself 2 mini lip sets, so that's where this number has gone. In September, I had 1 lip pencil. I have the same lip pencil. Ideally, I'd like to go up to 3, but I'm not in a rush to do so. For lipsticks, I had 22. I now have 32, so pretty big increase there. For crown products, I used to have 5. Now I have 10. For liquid, I used to have 3. Now I have 8. And for bullet, just traditional lipsticks, I used to have 14. I still have 14. So while those numbers may seem to have only grown and stayed the same, I've actually decluttered a lot of my lip products and replaced them with products I was more interested in or more likely to use. So that's why the bullets has stayed the same. I've actually gotten rid of some and replaced them with new ones. The liquid category and the crown category, I decluttered a few from both of those and then replaced them with miniatures. So that's why I have much more in that category. For lip glosses, in September I had 9. I currently have 8, and I'd like to go up to 10. I'm currently panning 2 lip glosses, and when that project's done, I'm going to throw them out whether they're done or not. So that's on its way down. I definitely have my eye on some lip glosses though, so we'll see how that goes next year. For lip balms, I'm really happy about this because the first update that I did for my inventory, I think back in June, I had 10 lip balms, and I was like, that's too many lip balms. In September, I had 7, and now I have 4, which I'm really happy about. I'm looking to move that down to 3, but I'm really happy I've done such good progress on that. In September, I had 9 perfumes. I now have 11. That breaks down to 6 full bottles of perfume or body spray and 5 samples of body spray or perfume. Ideally, I'd like to have 5 bottles of perfume and a flexible 0 around the samples. I mean, sometimes I'm not in control of whether I get samples or not, but I'd like to get them and then get them out of my collection as fast as possible. Now on to nail polishes. So in September, I had 39 nail polishes. I currently have 44. That breaks down to 1 base coat, 1 top coat. I used to have 2 treatments. I now only have 1. I used to have 1 glitter. I now have 3. I used to have 32 colored nail polishes. I now have 36. It currently breaks down to 1 black, 9 blue, 6 purple, 6 pink, 1 red, 5 oranges, 7 neutrals, and 1 green. I also have 2 nail strips, or those little like nail stickers. I have the same 2 I had in September. Now on to skincare. So what's happened in the past year is I haven't bought a lot of skincare. I started a new job in which I was given by representatives, because I work in retail, a lot of new products, like brand new full-size products. So that's why my numbers grew really rapidly between June and September, and that's why they're so high now. So like, don't think I hoard these products. It's because I've been given them to test out by companies, and it's just really hard to get through full bottles of lotion when you have so many. Okay, so let's get into skincare. For face products, I used to have 2 makeup removers. I currently have 1. Ideally, I would like to have 1. For cleansers, I used to have 4. I currently have 3, and I'd like to work down to 2. For face scrubs, I used to have none. I currently have 1. I'm happy to maintain 1. For toners or facial sprays, I used to have 4. I have the same 4, and I'd like to move down to 3. For eye serums, I used to have 1. I currently have 2 and would like to work down to 1. For regular face serums, I used to have 5. I currently have 2 and would like just 1. For facial moisturizers, I used to have 1. I now have 2 and would like to go back to 1. For oils, I used to have 1. I have the same 1. I'm happy to maintain 1. For face masks, I used to have 5. I now have 4, and I'd like to work that down to 2. For sunscreen, I used to have 2 and I still have the same 2. I'd like to ideally work that down to 1. Okay, now on to body skincare products. So we'll start with shower gel. In September, I had 6. I now have 3. Ideally, I would like to have just 2. For solid soaps, I used to have 8. I now have 7. And ideally, I would only like 2. For body lotion, I used to have 9. I currently have 12. And ideally, I would like to have 2. For body scrubs, I used to have 0. I still have 0, but I'd be happy to go up to 1. For body oils, I used to have 1. I still have the same 1. Happy to maintain that or to use it up and have none. For bath products, I used to have 6. I now have 4, and I'd like to work that down to 3. And then for tanning lotions, I had 1 in September, and I still have 1, and I'm happy with just 1. Now the last category. These are my hair care products. I'll go through this one really quickly because it's quite small. So in September, I had 1 shampoo. I now have 2. I'd ideally like to have none. I had 1 co-wash. I still have 1. I'm happy to have 1. I used to have 1 conditioner. I now have 3 conditioners, and I'd like to work that down to 1. I used to have 2 leave-in conditioners. I now have 1, and I'd like to maintain 1. For styling creams, I used to have 4. I now have 2, and I'm happy to maintain 2. And for hair oils, I used to have none. I now have 1. I'm happy to maintain just 1. So those are all of my numbers. I know I go through them pretty quickly in this video, but if you have any questions or want some further detail or clarification, please let me know in a comment. If you do makeup inventories or beauty inventories, I'd really love to have a look at yours. I just find it really interesting to see what kind of numbers people are comfortable having